This evening, our top story, Moscow is marking World Car Free Day today with more of the same, namely gridlock. It's the fourth year running that the capital has taken part in the event, but Muscovite drivers, well, they don't really seem to have changed their ways.
No, only City Hall officials, it seems, chose to leave their cars at home today. And let's find out how Primetime's Lindsay France got to work today. Lindsay, good evening to you. As much as I'm thrilled to find out how you got to work, I'm more sort of puzzled by what seems to be the problem with people getting on board with this plan. Why can't they just leave their cars at home for one day?
Well, if they live close to work like me, they'll walk, just out of convenience. But if you look at the timeline of when these car-free days really began, back in 1997, it was in the UK, followed a year after that by France, and in the year 2000, the European Commission facilitated the spreading of it throughout 35 countries. And then in 2008, it came to Russia. So not only did it take Russia a longer time to get on board with the idea, but it's also getting the culture here on board with this idea in notoriously congested streets. So not only that, it's so cold during much of the year that not a lot of people actually own many bikes because you're not going to use it for most of the year in cities like Moscow and certainly St. Petersburg. So it's really getting the culture to face something like this and to get them really on board with the idea of leaving their car at home and actually using a bike or walking or rollerblades or what have you. And not only that, but when it comes to bikes, as we spoke with bikers today, a lot of them just don't feel safe. Let's listen.
Motorists don't respect cyclists very much. They seldom let them pass, which is why it's pretty difficult to drive on the roads.
Many people in Moscow don't get on their bikes as they're put off by the lack of infrastructure. There are almost no bike lanes or designated lock-up spots, and drivers don't take cyclists seriously.
Now, not only have many City Hall workers biked or walked to work, but City Hall itself also issued half-price public transport tickets, but even those don't seem to be enough to attract people to use public transport at this time in any real greater number than usual.
Lindsay, as we've seen, not really a great success so far. We heard that some people simply find it too difficult to take part, but did many people say they simply don't want to be taking part in this?
Well, superjobs.ru conducted a poll very recently of almost 2,000 car owners in the country, and it had some interesting results. Over half of the people polled said they would not consider even participating in a day like this. 26% said that owning a car wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity. Some people live so far out because living within cities is so very expensive here in Russia that they live very far out, even away from public transport, and using a car wasn't a luxury. 27% said that if there was more accommodation created by these cities for bikers, that they would then consider leaving the car at home. But until it's easier for the average person to get to work without using their car, they wouldn't consider it. Now, when it comes to developing these bike paths, the city does have some long-term plans that are going to be put in effect. And we actually today spoke with the Department of Natural Resources and Environment here in Moscow. The head of that department told us how this city plans to take its cue from the people when it comes to developing those bike paths. Let's listen to what he's got to say.
The cycling lanes that the Department of Transport is including in the city's infrastructure are necessary and obvious. Once these are all up and running, people will let us know what more is needed. Otherwise, we'd end up wasting money building lanes that nobody needs.
So, yeah, I'm just looking at the traffic jam map at the moment, and it's 7 points out of 10, which means that the city's in pretty much of a gridlock. It can't be healthy, obviously. What are the city's efforts to promote biking, for example, to make the situation less dire?
Well, just a couple of weeks ago, we did a report on this show about the bike path, the 2-kilometer bike path strip that was painted in green paint near Moscow State University on a very, very busy road. We did that report. During the report, there were cars parked all along on top of the paint, no signage indicating what the paint was even for. It was extremely thin. Come to find out today that since then, when we spoke with authorities, they told us that new rules would be issued and that the city was going to be adapting drivers to the idea of these new bike paths. It's been covered up by pavement, so it's not even there yet. So when it comes to people getting on board with this idea, the city has got to get its act together with regard to consistent message, consistent signage, and consistent public communication with the direction the city wants to go with regard to biking, because there are more bike rentals happening in Moscow than ever before and more biking excursions happening. You can see it all over the streets. But when it comes to the ratio of bikes and cars, there's no beating cars in Moscow until the city moves forward with plans for development.
OK, I think we'll be chatting to a guest a little bit more about how easy it is to cycle in Moscow. That's later in the show. For now, though, thank you so much, Lindsay France.